Cliff Schecter is with us at the moment. Cliff, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much, Tom. Yeah, I am reporting from this strange land these days known as Ohio.
Yeah, and this whole, there's some very strange stuff going on. First of all, Ohio just passed a voter ID law without the voter ID part. This is kind of strange. How did this happen that they're gonna make it easier for you to confuse your polling place, which for some reason seems to happen in urban areas, maybe because they move them around a lot, and people who show up at the wrong polling place, their votes don't get counted, even if they vote. They're going to make that easier to confuse, but somehow Kasich wasn't able to get through the show us your papers, please part that's happening in so many other states. What's going on?
Well, I mean, it's important to note that the second largest reason why people's votes were thrown out in past elections was because they voted at the wrong place. And provisional ballots, which were passed here and have been used the last two elections, were a terrible thing for Republicans because people actually often who would not have been allowed to vote were allowed to vote. So they need to find ways to lower that number because we wouldn't want democracy actually to take place. So what you've got is now they've made it so that poll workers are not required, assuming Kasich signs this bill, and I'm going to assume he will, that poll workers will not be required to tell people where their correct precinct is. So maybe they'll just sort of spin you around and you can pin a tail on a donkey and try to figure out where it is you're actually supposed to vote. You think in our system of democracy you'd want people to vote in the right place. If you're talking about Republicans, you'd be wrong. So,
yeah.
I mean,
well, as Paul Wayrick has said to us so many times, Paul, the great Reagan strategist, pretty much laid it out. Here it is.
To vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
Yeah. So that's the Republican perspective.
It's important to note, too, Wayrick was not just a Reagan guy, but he was sort of a key figure in the founding of the Heritage Foundation and ALEC, which has been responsible for a lot of the terrible legislation that's been passed here, and I know we've spoken about it on your show before. So when you hear him talking, you can realize that that's the strategies of the right-wing think tanks.
Right.
Those are the strategies of these right-wing shadow groups like ALEC, these corporate groups that push terrible legislation like everything we're seeing here in Ohio right now.
Right.
And so Wayrick's telling you what they believe in. That's what he's
So
telling.
Speaking of corporate groups in Ohio, I want to set up my next question for you, which is about a $56 million package of grants, tax credits, and loans that John Kasich gave to a particular corporation, with a very short clip from when Howard Dean, back in 2006 or 7, back before MSNBC was so widely watched, was filling in, I believe, for Keith Olbermann. I may be wrong, but he was filling in for one of the MSNBC hosts, and he had on Bev Harris as his guest. And here's a clip from that.
Bev sat me down, and in a few short seconds, I was amazed at what I could do.
He's talking about
Bev, show me how to do this.
Go to My Computer and just click that. Go to Local Disk C. Go to GEMS, which is the name of the Diebold program. We're going to go to Local DB, which stands for Local Database. That's where they keep the votes. And by the way, this has been out on the internet for ages now. Go to Central Tabulator Votes, which is the database we just looked at. And then go to the sum of the candidates, which is that table. You see we have 800 votes here for you and 400 for Lex Luthor. Let's just flip those. We'll make that 400, and we'll give 100 votes to Tiger. Let's just see what happened here. We'll go back into GEMS the legitimate way. You're the county supervisor. You're checking on the progress of your election. And as you can see now, Howard Dean only has 500 votes. Lex Luthor has 900, and Tiger Woods has 100 votes. We just edited an election. It took us 90 seconds.
And it's amazing. Howard Dean hacking, with the advice of Bev Harris, hacking a Diebold voting machine on live national television.
Right.
That was maybe 5 years ago. In April, Kasich gave Diebold a $56 million package of grants, tax credits, and loans. Much of Ohio's vote is tallied on Diebold machines, like the one that Howard Dean hacked on national television.
Yeah, there's a strange history of people, witnesses suddenly no longer being alive. I mean, I don't mean to get too conspiratorial here, but
Feel free.
I'm sorry?
Feel free.
Look, in 2004, some strange things happened here. Some strange things have happened in a number of states and a number of elections. And Diebold, when you've got the head of the company, he feels emboldened to come out and say that he would do everything in his power to deliver the votes to George W. Bush, like he said in 2004. it doesn't take too much to realize that unless these guys, first of all, these guys shouldn't even be in the business, but those who have these computerized voting, obviously they should be heavily regulated in a way that it can't be tampered with. We can't be bothered to spend money on that kind of stuff because we need to spend money on all the other important things, tax cuts for the rich, and I mean we haven't even gotten to. Kasich agenda here. There's a charter school group, White Hat Management, that's gotten in all sorts of trouble. The money that they get given by the government has a way of never finding its way to the classroom. They got busted for paying their board members multiple times. Every time they would talk about a different school, different charter school that White Hat was managing, they get paid again for their service there. So they just sit there and have a conversation. I mean, this is what, Medicaid's cut by 6% now. So now your nursing homes no longer required to have a bathroom or bathtub, for a room.
Wow.
But you will be happy to know that the Ohio legislature is opening up a bar in their Capitol building because apparently they do have the money for that. So from now on, when they pass this idiotic legislation, you can ask yourselves whether they're stupid or drunk or both.
Or do they need to anesthetize themselves after screwing the people so badly just to shut up their consciences?
Right. I've often thought they were drunk in the past. Some of this legislation was so bad. Now I'll know they may actually be. So, I mean, it's all about, as we always talk about, we don't have a deficit problem. We have a priorities problem. I mean, this stuff's easily handled. They have enough money to set up their own bar when they want. They have enough money to give money to Diebold, to White Hat Management, and the rest. They're just cutting educational services and health care, Medicaid, the rest for the rest of us, sending back money for rail to Obama, not accepting money for rail, and that would help the environment, obviously, make us more efficient. I think, just to bust, before we move on, to say quickly, the piece that you did the other day, Tom, on the American way, and what the right has done to it, I think it literally should be required viewing for everybody in this country, because if you want to understand what's going on in Ohio, why we've been decimated, the manufacturing base here, why we don't make things anymore, why people are suffering the way they are. There's just no other way to understand it. While bridges in China are being built, and frankly, our bridges are being built in China.
Right, the Bay Bridge. In fact, that's going to be our debate in the third hour of this program. So thank you for that plug, Cliff.
Well, I saw the debate, and I just was like, everybody needs to see this.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a half a minute left here. Exit polls in Kasich's election showed that he lost by 2.7%. What's the deal?
What is the deal?
People voting in the wrong district?
Probably a lot of people voting in the wrong district. Provisionals being thrown out. I mean, we did have a Democratic Secretary of State at the time, so some of the things Ken Blackwell did, like saying certain size paper wouldn't count and making sure there were lines that were 8 hours long in student areas where there were colleges and in urban areas, it wasn't as bad. But still, when these guys control the voting, at Diebold, who knows?
And very quickly, is it true what I'm reading in the news that Kasich sold $400 million worth of junk assets to the Ohio State Teachers Pension Fund when he was working for Lehman Brothers?
That would be entirely true, yes.
And the teachers had to come up with $2 billion to make up what they lost?
Yes, but remember, it's teachers, firemen, and the police's fault that we're in the mess we're in. They should have their benefits.
There you go. Cliff Schecter.